Why does our mind seem to prefer negative thinking and worst case scenarios? It destroys the joy of baby journey and takes much of the focus away. First of all, I'm a big believer in the power of words. So let's remove the word destroy from your motherhood journey, shall we? And let's replace it with like something like reduce, something that's much less loaded. Your mind is powerful. The words that you use and the thoughts that you have need to support what you want, need to support your vision, your desires. Those words have to align to that. If you're careless or sloppy or lazy about your words, about your thoughts, about your behaviors, your reality will reflect that. And so it's going to mirror what it is that you say or think and believe. Okay, so back to the question of why does our mind seem to prefer negative thinking and worst case scenarios? It's a survival mechanism. It's a way to soften the blow. So if it doesn't work out, you've already prepared yourself mentally for it. The issue with that is the more your mind entertains the undesired outcomes, the more familiar it becomes with them. And the more familiar it becomes with them, the more likely it's going to happen. Because your body follows the lead of your mind. Your mind is the captain of your ship. It may not feel that way, but it is. Many of you think your body is doing its thing and you're just kind of along for the ride. It's not. Your mind is leading the way. Always, no exception. The reason that you feel out of control at times is because a lot of what you do, say, feel, all of that is unconscious. Much of that, not all of that, much of that is unconscious, and it's patterned by past behaviors and external influences. Whatever scenario, thought, belief, feeling gets the most airtime, the most attention, the most energy, it's going to be the winner. Your mind does this all the time. When you're driving, how many times have you almost missed an exit or missed an exit because your mind checks out and you just drive the regular route, right? Because you're so used to it. That's how your mind works. If you spend very minimal amount of time imagining your happily ever after, imagining your dreams and your vision for fear of disappointment, your mind hasn't created enough of a remembered path for your body to follow. It's too new, it's too unfamiliar, it's too uncomfortable. If it spends more time in worst case scenarios, and also for plan B situations as well, this applies to plan B situations, like what if this doesn't work? I'm going to do this, right? If it spends more time in those scenarios, in those kind of make-believe situations, that's what's familiar. And that's how your reality will unfold, because your mind does not know the difference between what's imagined and what's real in an external world. That's the reason why when we're watching movies, we get very emotional, very involved with it, because our mind doesn't know the difference. Our body reacts the same way as if we were really in that situation. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're, thinking certain thoughts or believing certain things. You really want to train yourself to be aware of your thoughts. It's constant vigilance, especially in the beginning. It's not easy. It's simple enough, but it's not easy because you have to be very hyper vigilant. And it gets easier, as you get more practiced with it, you catch it more quickly. When you're aware that it's turning negative, you just change the thought like you would just change a radio station. It really is as simple as just changing that dial on your radio station. It's about you making a decision that you're going to stop thinking that thought and think about something else instead. And, when you think a thought that you don't want to think about, don't be hard on yourself. Don't, bully yourself. Don't blame yourself, whatever. Just like, oh, okay, I'm thinking this thought again. I need to pivot. I need to switch over. Just allow yourself that grace of learning to think a different way, to believe a different way, to behave a different way. It's a process. It takes time. And so have grace for yourself while you're doing this. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is a lifelong skill, and so just kind of go easy with yourself about that. So when when you stop that negative thought, I suggest that you train yourself to replace it with a thought of appreciation. Because when you stop the thought, it kind of creates this void, this space because typically what happens is you have a thought and you just kind of follow that train of thought, right? And your mind's kind of already prepared for that. So when you stop a thought, you've kind of created this vacuum. And so you want to fill it with something positive. Otherwise, the natural tendency is to fill it with something negative, because that's kind of what you're used to. And because that frequency is already there, the frequency of that negative thought is already there, you have to actively replace it with a higher frequency thought, one that is of appreciation. So appreciate anything, even if it's small. If you're lying in bed at the end of the night and your mind starts running, this happens with a lot of women, right? You're like, oh, I should have done this, this didn't happen, my period came, whatever it was, right? You think, instead of doing that, catch it as quickly as you can. And you think about how you love your bed, how comfortable it is, how good the sheets smell, how you just wash your sheets and it feels so great and so clean, how you love the feel of your partner next to you. Whatever you need to do to stop that thought and shift your attention to something that's better, that's higher frequency, that I would recommend that you do. The faster that you catch those negative thoughts, the easier it is to switch to a different thought. The longer that you've kind of let it, because if you're not aware of switching your thoughts and you kind of let it play out, it's really hard to pull yourself out of that, because you start kind of getting sucked into that. So you do really, over time, you do really want to train yourself. It'll happen more quickly. It takes practice. It takes awareness. I have to emphasize that. Please do not get frustrated with yourself when you catch the negative thoughts. Just get into the neutral observer mode and switch channels. Oh, I had this thought. It's not really serving me. I'm going to have another thought. That's all it needs to be, just very neutral. Your mind will eventually catch on and it'll start looking at things from a more positive, or at least a neutral perspective. It's just, like I said, and I emphasize, it is a training process. Don't expect to happen overnight. This is probably decades of patterns of thinking, of behavior, that you just need to switch. I still have to be very careful about what I say, because I tend to have kind of a more fatalistic kind of viewpoint. I'm not one of those cheery, airy kind of person, like always lighthearted. That's not my natural personality. And so I have to make a concerted effort to make sure that my words align with what I really truly feel, instead of, and I catch myself all the time, instead of just kind of what blurts out of my mouth, just kind of diarrhea of the mouth. So you've just got to be really careful about it, right? So pause and really think about what you want to say and pivot. Okay. Was this helpful? If yes, please like and subscribe so you get notified of new videos on this channel. I'm Julie Chang, and I'm here to help women in their 40s manifest their healthy baby. I hold live masterclasses where I answer questions from women on the motherhood journey and post clips on this YouTube channel. Click the link in the description below to join my email list to find out when they are. Thanks so much for joining me. See you next time. Bye.